Essentially, we're making a video today. We are Ooh, okay. So, so this is not a super flat world like I intended, but I suppose we will utilize it nonetheless, with quite the the term is goated spawn, quite the goated spawn off the rip. However, this village is quite unsatisfactory. We will begin this video by getting rid of the village. And also changing my fucking binds. There we have it. The control scheme of a god. So I suppose while I construct this doomsday device, I shall explain the simple premise. I've found that media literacy and analysis is at an all-time low, and this remains very true for the game Deltarune, and it is my sole purpose to cleanse these non-believers and to spread the unequivocal, undeniable, and irrefutable truth about Deltarune and its story and its themes that run far deeper than you simpletons may expect them to. So you see, I've already created one such theory, which I shall link now using the many tools at my disposal as a YouTube creator, and I shall put onto you the truth behind Gaster from Deltarune and why he is so serious. However, that is not the purpose of this video. I need to get some of my materials for what I'm planning to show you. Before anyone says it, no, I will not play on PC. I will not join you PC master race fools and heathens. Upset me. Essentially, what I am here to describe today is something quite simple, but you must forgive me. I've become quite distracted with my weapon here. This has nothing to do with the theory I am here to disclose. However, you may see it in a metaphorical sense. The explosions may have something to do with part of the topic, which I will explain in due time. But first, let's watch this bomb-ass explosion. Now that's what I call an explosive intro to a theory. Now that is what I call an explosive intro for a theory that you will soon come to accept as the only theory to ever be right. But first I must flex the seed. Mushroom Island, a beautiful snow biome, a meek peasant village beside the much more stark and Chad woodland mansion alongside the actual village made for human people and not simpletons. And those simpletons will be the ones that we will go on to defy in this theory. So you see, this theory begins with well, I believe it would be more accurate to have it begin with one KRIS from Deltarune, KRIS the Knight, KRIS the sorcerer, the character in which we control in Deltarune. Now KRIS is already quite the interesting critter, but when we put our thinking goggles and hats on, we can see a theory that lies just beyond the veil of the video game Deltarune. Now, I want you to stand with me as I present not a theory per se, but rather what I believe to be an irrefutable fact. So, yes, this will do precisely. This is the KRIS we know, the playable character, and this works quite well as Steve is the playable character in Minecraft, in which I will don for at least 2 minutes and 14 seconds. This is KRIS, and the thing that is very interesting about KRIS is the fact that they are the only human in the world. If you consider this fact for more than a measly 5 seconds, you will come to understand that this can only be false. Because the world as we know it is filled with 8,000,000 people, which is a lot of people, and KRIS being the only person human in the world would simply be bullshit. No. Allow me to present my hypothesis. KRIS, by this line of thinking, must have 2 siblings. Because in many shows and series across the world, 3 is the magical number. Think of cartoon and worldwide phenomenon Sonic Underground, in which, you guessed it, there is not 1, but 2 siblings to the Blue Menace. Now, let me present who I believe these 2 hidden siblings to be. And there is much evidence within the game to assume this off of. And I'm using the word assume because that is how you view this. From your perspective, you think that I am a buffoon, and many people think this. Many people think this with the work that I do. with the ideas that I have. And although this fact hurts my feelings quite deeply, part of me does understand that in some cases the truth is so blinding to the eye of the average person that the only thing they can respond with is, oh, this is wrong, this is incorrect, this is pure heresy. To assume such a thing to be true, such a multifaceted, complex thing, such a unbelievable factor to consider in the wider story, when we already are comfortable thinking that's the that the that the that 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 that's the that's the that the knight is a deer, which is a theory that is absolutely reprehensible and is, as I mentioned in the beginning, a sign of just absolute degeneracy. It is degeneracy to the highest degree, and I am here to root out such by presenting only the facts. And to call what I am presenting now and what I will be presenting in the near future as a theory is an insult to me and my work, and I will root out this cause. I will splay its guts across the world in this minute video. These 60 seconds will be the most chock-full 60 seconds you will experience in your life. This single minute video will change your view of Deltarune forever, and it is not even the final video I will make, although I could simply create this video and disappear forever and leave you squawkabillies to discuss this at length, ad nauseum. But rather than linger on how the people of this world view me, I will elaborate. KRIS can have 2 siblings, and I believe 2 is the perfect number for Chrisington here today. Let me present who I believe these siblings to be, and you might be thinking already, well, Asriel Dreamer is one of them, but then you realize that, oh, I am a viewer of this video, and that makes me an absolute fool. I want you to put aside any of your own biases and ego and look me in my eyes and say, I am a stupid fucking moron, and I know nothing. Because what do we know in this world, in this grand world? Look at how big this world is. Look at how many chunks exist in this world and how much goes on in these chunks that we simply cannot understand and cannot know. And all we are working off is assumptions. But let me tell you now that assumption is a word that is quite foreign to me, because everything I state should be taken 100% literally, seriously, and with tact and without contempt, for I am always right. So allow me to state my thesis, allow me to elaborate. Asriel cannot be the sibling I am mentioning, because as I said earlier, there are 8 million people on this planet, and for KRIS to be the only one in the world of Deltarune would be an absolute farce. So, allow me to present the 2 siblings. One with lime, and one with brown. You see, they're quite similar to KRIS, but also quite separate. The first will be the brown, I suppose, for it makes more sense. This is the character I postulate to be Pooh KRIS. Allow me to explain. Pooh KRIS is a character in Deltarune, and you may not have noticed all of the signs, but when you look, they definitely begin to show. KRIS is a very stinky individual, being the color of poo. No, allow me to explain. KRIS is the same as Chris, however, as we could see in their sprite, as was leaked when chapters 3 and 4 released, they have a smile that is quite sinister, honestly, and gives me the chills. But beyond that is the more obvious point of them being stinky brown and poo colored, much like. And what this means is that KRIS is a very stinky one. So, why have we not seen KRIS in the story Deltarune? It is my belief that we have not seen KRIS because, well, they're quite stinky, so it just wouldn't really make sense, to be honest. KRIS adds a lot of depth to Chris because it lets us know that to be KRIS, the normal Chris probably is not very smelly, at least we could hope. And what I think this means for the story is that, well, it would tie in quite nicely to another facet of this theory that I believe to be true, and that is the roaring shite. As we know, roaring shite was also part of the Giggle Leak of chapters 3 and 4 when Tony left practically the entire rest of the game in the files by some mishap. I'm not quite sure, but a lot of information was found in that, which people strangely do not cite, likely because they are leaks, and the people that discuss this game are quite cowardly. But in this leak, we see the roaring shite, and the reason I believe this part of the leak to be absolutely ironclad and stoic in its way is because poo is bad and needs to be flushed, and because of that fact, obviously the knight is the villain. It would make sense for that to be true because the knight is the villain, which should be flushed away because it is bad. Refute that one in the comments if you dare. What I am presenting to you is what I believe to be an accurate depiction of KRIS, although we can only really go off of assumptions. Well, no, that won't do. A big smile for a big friend, yes, of course. And while I believe KRIS to be a large part of this theory, it's not all that I'm presenting today, because we all knew that Chris had one sibling, so it's not too large of a stretch, but you'll notice that across from brown is green. And I know the trend these days is to make things green, and because green is the color of Luigi, and Luigi is quite funny. However, this is no joke. May I remind you that this is no laughing matter, this is fact. The world you believe in is fiction, and I am here to present what is true. The green, my dear viewer, is green Chris. Let me spell it, let me say it many, many times until it enters your thick skull. Green Chris, green Chris, green Chris. Green space CHRIS. You see, this Chris is not Chris, but it is Chris. CHRIS. He is the brother to Chris and KRIS, and you might think, well, what does Green Chris do? If KRIS is the one who stinks, then what of Green Chris? Green Chris is, as many families are built of, contradiction. Yin and yang, the story of opposites. It is a story as old as time. that they're opposites. Well, no, opposites do not attract. They are related. Opposites are prevalent. If one thing exists, the antithesis must also exist. It is what the old man who said a long time ago. Unfortunately, I do not remember his name. And Green KRIS is different from Pooh KRIS by many factors. Green KRIS is a boy and has had a different name spelling, and this alone already sets Green KRIS out quite a lot. Now, let me paint this picture that will no doubt sear your mind, and when you close your eyes, your retinas will still register such an image because your worldview is being entirely shifted as we speak. Oh no, this won't work. Oh, perhaps. Perhaps. Perhaps this. Interesting. Now, as we continue our discussions, Green KRIS is the antithesis to... That scared me. The antithesis to our good friend Pooh KRIS. As Pooh KRIS is the poo flushed from the toilet, Pooh KRIS is the menace. Pooh KRIS is the stinkiest one around because to represent the wider scale of humanity, there are many stinkers. So Pooh KRIS is the culmination of such factors. Green KRIS, however, is, as I was saying prior, the antithesis. If you will have listened during class, you will know what that means. The opposite. Green KRIS is the cleanest freak to exist in these lands. The cleanest freak of them all. It's Green KRIS. Green KRIS's purpose is to exist as the cleanest boy in town, which isn't very hard when there are many stinkers in the world, as Pooh KRIS encapsulates. Green KRIS is very different to our friend Pooh KRIS in many ways, namely in the fact that he is green and is not non-binary. Take that, liberals. Oh, he looks quite ugly. This is... Oh, he's quite... Hello. This is Green KRIS as we understand him. Green KRIS is... Oh, I fucking hate it. Green KRIS is the opposite to Pooh KRIS, as we see. Green KRIS is the one that flushes every toilet, wipes every surface clean, and is the third sibling of the Dreamer family. So if we are to make a full list, it is the parents, KRIS, and their two siblings, Pooh KRIS and Green KRIS. Now you might think, well, this theory has not been previously mentioned by any big name in the community. This is absolute drivel, and you need to get a job. And I say to this, think for one moment with that meat and bone that you have been so graciously gifted with and wasting every day of your life. Think for one moment about the fact that not a single piece of evidence exists to contradict such a theory. Chris cannot be the only human to exist in this world because it would simply make no sense. So, this is why I posit that Pooh Chris and Green Chris must exist in the world of Deltarune. Now, allow me to explain the next factor of the theory. Why are they not in the Dreamer household? This is where it begins to tie into the greater themes of Deltarune. Deltarune is a game ultimately about light and dark, and as we can see here, the light of the clean bathroom surfaces, and then the dark of the, well, I suppose I don't need to say it, do I? It spells itself out quite clearly. P-O-O-K-R-I-S. P-O-O space K-R-I-S. Pooh Chris. It writes itself. The light and dark of this world, the clean and the unclean, the showered and the Smash Brothers player. It is all too simple. It is all too cyclical, the story of opposites. The lighteners, the darkeners, the clean, the unclean. Those who use toilet paper and those who go crusty. That is a key factor of this theory. And I believe it adds a lot of emotion to the main character, Chris. Chris, I must imagine, must miss their brother and their sibling, and must be very lonely. Very lonely. Very lonely. And because of this fact, this story of Deltarune begins to unfold. And it also makes the ever debated roaring shite twist reveal, I would say, quite a bit more tasteful, rather than some potty humor, some toilet humor fart joke that it would be seen as without this key information that the community continues to forget. It's just, well, once again, it spells itself out. The siblings makes the roaring shite something that should be appreciated and lauded as a beautiful, beautiful metaphor. The villains of this world are the stinkers, and the roaring shite does that job just perfectly. This changes everything we had previously known about the character of Chris, and maybe could inform us as to why they have killed their friends Ralsei and Susie, which is something that we see happen. Bitches don't even want to watch Let's Plays anymore. This theory breathes new life into Deltarune because I believe the game without theories is nothing. But many theories fail to grasp the fact that they are entirely fucking wrong. And that is my mission. It is to change this plague that permeates the Deltarune community, is the fact that many of its theories are formed on nothing but absolute baseless assumptions that do not further the story. This is why I have presented today the idea of the KRIS family theory, and that KRIS must have two human siblings. Now, we may begin to theorize further on what these characters could be. This song is a banger, by the way. Goodness me. It brings a tear to the eye. We may begin to theorize further on the characters of Pooh KRIS. Maybe Pooh KRIS, being as nasty as they are, might have ended up in a sewer somewhere, perhaps. And with Green KRIS, perhaps they went to a water park to go slip and slide in the clean waters, even though that is not how water parks are. They are, in fact, very dirty. But you must excuse me. I do not often drink alcohol. Cut that part. You must forgive me. These theories are quite taxing. I am using much of my brain capacity to even begin to explain such concepts, such in-depth ideas to you. I would hope that, as how I have presented it, it begins to make sense to you. Now, allow me to develop this. Pooh KRIS is the sibling to KRIS who is dirty. Green KRIS is the brother to KRIS who is clean. And KRIS is the one quite in the middle who cannot decide if they are dirty or clean. For they are both. It is reflected in the game, it is reflected in the green, it is the normal gameplay route as intended by the developers of the game, and the brown is the dirty side of the game. It is seen in the Snowgrave route where you tickle Noelle until she decides that she can't take it anymore and must kill. This is the dichotomy which stands to present, which stands to create KRIS as the character that we know today, the character that is so complex and has so many inner workings and so many inner conflicts that we can't even begin to understand. But with this we can begin to understand. With this we can begin to infer what it could all mean. To begin to understand the inner plight of our good friend KRIS Christopher from Deltarune, who is making so many actions and has so many behaviors that we think are quite strange and weird. But if you face the facts, if you look at them and look at him, look at them in the eyes, look at both of them in the eyes, and you'll see KRIS is a hurting child who misses their siblings very much, and because of that fact, they're making mistakes. They're being used by Carol, the demon of our world, the white demon of our world, is being utilized in many ways to bring about great evil, because KRIS is hurting inside and we can't even begin to understand. If you ever consider why in the weird route in chapter 4 when you put the thorn ring into Noelle, and why do you think that KRIS brings the human soul into the bathroom of all places? You fool, it's because you are playing dirty, and it reminds them so clearly of their long-lost sibling, KRIS. You have done such hurt to them, and you were sticking the knife in the stinging place in their heart. You monster. You absolute terrible monster. What have you done? You have reminded them of all of what they have lost. And it is your fault. Your fault, I say. Yours. You've done this, you monster. You've done it all. It further develops the inner workings of KRIS as a character who is not made to be understood but made to be pitied. We look at KRIS and say, oh no, this poor child is missing such elements of their life. They have an absent father who is also a police officer and is always away. And with two missing children, what is one to do? Maybe KRIS thinks, oh, maybe perhaps I will be next. Perhaps I will be the one down the toilet. Perhaps I will be the one scrubbed away by Mr. Clean. By Mr. Clean, no less. And it is a sentiment to the themes of the game, the themes of Deltarune. Poo, the dirtiness of poo is never eternal. It always sinks into the floor, and the clean can never stay. Nothing stays clean forever. Our hands as human people don't stay clean forever. But however, they will never stay always dirty as well, because that's not how things work, idiot. Change is a part of life that you must accept or die. If you do not accept the change of the world around you and the people around you that will always grow and change in many ways, then you are a fool of the old world, a zealot of the old world who stands for nothing, because without change we have nothing. And without their siblings, what is KRIS? Ever think about why KRIS never speaks or talks? It's because they're so heartbroken about their missing friends and family. Because friends are family after all. What is it then that Deltarune will aim to solve? Perhaps KRIS will see their family again, and perhaps things will change, and that things will be good and bright again, but life is often not so not so nice. Life is not a book to be read and to be enjoyed and to be satisfactory. Life is madness, a beautiful madness, and because of that fact, to deny a theory so as you would see out there and so baseless is entirely unbelievable, and you must feel very bad about that fact, because forgive me for being so emotional, but this theory stands between the weakest and the strongest of us. To throw these facts away is to spit in the face of me and the world, and what we have come to know as truth. To discard such facts and such ideas is to deny how emotionally resonant it would be for them to be true. It is to deny true storytelling. It is to deny all purpose. It is to deny humanity. For this is the most human thing. You must understand that I speak from a place of truth and honesty. It is my belief that your idiocy must be cleansed, and this is only the first step in my grand plan to change the world forever. You have not long until I arrive and knock on your doors again. You have not long until reason finds you. This is only the first page of my writings, the first moment, the blurb, the introduction of my story, for I am here to create and to show the world the reason that it has long since decided to discard. These theories are not theories, but facts, and to deny them is to, well, how to put it in a way that does not make you combust from within. To deny them is to simply admit that you are deficient in many ways, be it in your mental capacity or in your image of yourself. And it is my mission to present these theories so that you may grow and understand the works of our good men and women and children and things that create. Presently, this is you, the burning carcass, who does not yet know it is a carcass, despite the fact that it walks and is named as such. But with theories such as these, with faces such as these, we may go to see reason. We may find truth in the world again. I do not work alone. I alone will present the world with what has been missing for so long. Theories that actually make fucking sense. And this is only the beginning. Witness. Witness this vast ocean. Witness the clean waters of the world that expand endlessly. You drown under my reason, you drown under my knowledge, because this kind of knowledge, this amount of depth and exploration of themes and details and character work is something that you have only dreamt of, is something that you thought you knew, that you thought you were taught in this world, something that you thought you believed in. You thought that game theory did this? You thought game theory did this? What did game theory do but quell your expectations? Not all is Five Nights at Freddy's, buffoon. All is fiction. And not all fiction is to be understood as Chuck E. Cheese incident in real life inspired by real life incident. Pooh KRIS and greed, KRIS, come from such reason that you need people like me to explain it. Think about it. You have come to deny your purpose as one who thinks, as one who writes, as one who believes. All you do is consume, and all you have done is melt and rot and rot and rot, and you have fallen so far from what you could be. But I am here to establish what can be. I will show you the future. It is a doghouse.